Hey crafty friends, it's Christina here with you guys for the April stamping team night. For this month we are going to be doing a peekaboo shaker card. I'm just going to hold on a minute here just to make sure I have some people on so that I know that it is working okay. So you don't need a lot of supplies for this. Basically you want the star of the show to be the shaker element. And so when you're pulling together your supplies, you're just going to need your basic card making supplies. Grab some cardstock, obviously, stamps, some designer series paper. Although you can notice here from my sample that I did not use a lot of that because the focus is really on the shaker element. So I do see some eyeballs now, so we will go ahead and get started. So as I was saying, we are going to do a peekaboo shaker card. So here is my sample here. So you can see that shaker element, and when you lift it up, you can see that it's actually going to the inside of the card. So while shaker cards on their own are pretty fun, a peekaboo shaker is even more fun because you get a look into that inside of that card. And it's not a lot of extra work for it. So as I was saying, you don't need a lot of supplies other than what you would normally do for a shaker card. Actually, I think you'd want less, like you'll see I am using less pattern paper and stuff because I really want the focus and the star to be on the peekaboo shaker element here. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing you're going to need is your base of your card, obviously. So it's a standard size card. It is 8.5 by 5.5, and then I've scored it at 4 1/4. And I'm doing mine in basic white because, like I said, I really want to focus in on that shaker element. And so I don't want to do a lot to distract from that. And so by doing the basic white, it also gives you a nice way to focus on any color. Like if you use another neutral, like the basic beige or something like that, it makes it so that the other colors are going to pop really nicely. So you're going to go ahead and fold that in half, and then you're going to go ahead and decide on what shape you're going to use for your shaker element. And because I wanted to use the new Balloon Festoon set here, I knew that's what I wanted to do because I wanted to do like a birthday card. I thought that the party banners were kind of a fun window element here. So you do want to use some sort of die that is nesting, that meaning that you can go ahead and do 2 sizes of it because we're going to go ahead and make a nice frame to frame in that shaker element. So when I did this, I did the 2nd and 4th. So let's see, these 2 here, because what you're going to do is you're going to use the smaller of the 2 that you're going to nest. So I actually skipped one so that I'd have a nicer frame. So I would recommend that you use something a little bit more like a circle or a square when you're doing this, if this is your first time especially doing a shaker card or doing a peekaboo shaker, just because if you have any kind of like this with that little point here, you do have to do a little extra trimming of it when we get to the portion where we're creating the shaker. So my recommendation would be something like a basic shape, like a square or a circle if you have them. And most people tend to have those, so I think that that works out well. So when you pull those out, go ahead and choose 2 that you can go ahead and skip one size. So like I said, I have the 2nd and the 4th. And you're going to use the smaller of the 2 to go ahead and cut out your shape in your card. And you'll notice that mine is kind of off center. It's a little bit over to the right. And that is on purpose because I wanted to have a small bit of paper here on the left-hand side. And so I wanted to balance that. So kind of consider how you're going to go ahead and decorate yours. If you're going to go ahead and follow the same layout as I've done here, which I will go ahead and start showing you. So I took a piece of our Artisan sketched garden. It's a 1/2 inch wide and it's 5.5 tall. It was kind of sad to not use the beautiful actual floral pieces, but I wanted to kind of keep with the more basic, so I'm using the striped piece. And I'm going to go ahead and glue that flush to the edge. And like I said, I'm keeping it kind of small, and I'm staying with really neutral. That's why I did this sketched garden, because it's very neutral. And I wanted to also tie in the new in colors, and so the new in colors will pop a lot with just being with the black and the white. And so we have some new, if you didn't see, we have some velveteen paper, specialty paper. So this one I did as a 1/4 inch wide, and it's again 5.5. inches long, and it's the Peaceful Pine, which is one of the new in colors. So this comes with 3 colors. It has this Peaceful Pine, it has, I think it's the Bubble Bath, and then white. And I wanted to kind of test out a couple things, and I'll share those with you so that you have that knowledge too. Because we had back around the holidays, we had the velvet paper assortment, which came with white, red, and green. And I had used the white a lot with the Woolly Friends because you could stamp on it, which was really nice. And so I wanted to see how that compared with the Velveteen. The Velveteen, hopefully this is showing through okay. You can see it's a little bit more gray than white, I would say. And it's also not as thick. It's not as plush as the velvet paper we had. It does stamp on there. I wanted to do just a test run on that. It doesn't stamp as crisply. You can see it's kind of a little bit more dull, but it does stamp and it does not rub off. Whereas on the velvet paper, it's a little bit bolder, and again, it doesn't rub off. So there's just a little bit of a comparison to help you if you haven't seen those and you just had these questions about that. I thought that would be helpful. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna glue this flush up against that first piece. And then that way you'll notice that that is why the cutout, the shaker element, is offset there. And I have a little bit extra, so I'm gonna just snip off that little piece. Okay, so now you can see it's kind of more centered. So now that we've done that portion, I am going to go ahead and do my stamping. So I chose to use the Stampin' Positioner because I wanted to make sure if I didn't get a nice crisp stamp image here for the Let's Celebrate, I could do it again. And I have done that on I had to do a couple stampings on there just to make sure I could get a nice crisp image. And if you did not take advantage of the pre-sale for us demonstrators back in January, hopefully you noticed that it is available again in May for everyone, for customers and demonstrators alike. So you could get one then. So I'm just checking to make sure it is still centered with my shape. Now you'll notice that mine, I have it really low, and I did that on purpose because I knew that my balloons, I would have the little strings coming down, and I didn't want to have whatever I had stamped here kind of to be covered up. So if you, when you're thinking about your design, if you want to, you could have your stamped image be higher if you won't have anything hanging in that way, in the way that would block that. So I am going to go ahead and ink this up then and stamp it. Again, this is from the Balloon Festoon set, both the stamp set and the dies. So it's good for not only birthdays, like which I'm anticipating I will use this for, it's also really great for graduations, which are coming up, and I actually just made a graduation card with it, just because it is so good for that. Okay. So I'm actually happy with that, so I'm not going to do a second run. So I'm just going to quickly wipe that off. Okay, so I've got one stamping done. So then the other stamping is the stamping on the inside here with the happy birthday. So that way that peeks through when the recipient is looking at the card, and it's actually on the inside of the card. So I did a little stamp surgery on this set with this happy birthday because, let me actually show you this set again here. This happy birthday is one long piece, and I wanted it to be able to fit inside that pennant. So I cut it in half. If you've never done that before, I think a lot of people have, but if you haven't before, I'm not going to take it off just because I don't want to have to realign it, but hopefully that kind of shows through. You can kind of see I snipped right here. It's a little bit jagged, and right here. So I bend back, actually let me get out another one of the images that might be more helpful. Let's see, this is a good one here, this Enjoy Your Day. So when I'm going to go ahead and do stamp surgery and go ahead and cut pieces apart because I want to have more versatility with my stamp image, I go ahead and I bend it back, because when you bend back that piece, then it expands where those two images are, so you're better able to go ahead and take your scissors in there and go ahead and slowly snip across that, so that way you have, you know, a different image or a different, I should say form of how that image is. And the nice thing is that you can go ahead and put them back together side by side, kind of like a puzzle, and they fit together and no one is any wiser that you've cut it apart. So if you've not done that before and you feel like you can't use an image because it doesn't fit the way you need it to, that might be a possibility for you. So, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up my card, and then I'm going to go ahead and center it on this side because that's where I have my stamp image. So you can have multiple stamp images on here to do. I'm just going to, again, make sure that it fits there, and then I'm going to close this and just make sure, yep, just doing a test run to make sure that I do still have it in the right spot that I need it to be. So that is how you can go ahead and stamp yours as well, whether or not you're using the pennant shape like I am, or you're using a circle or a square or some other shape. Okay, again, I want to make sure that my card didn't shift, but luckily with the positioner, it doesn't start touching the paper until I press down. So it looks like everything's good. So I'm going to go ahead and press down. I'm just going to let it hold just a little bit, just so that ink really presses in. Looks good. All right, so now you can see when I close that, you can see that happy birthday through that window peeking through. So next, we're going to go ahead and start creating the shaker. Okay, so you are going to need 2 window sheet pieces. So depending on the size of, and the shape, I should say, of what you're doing, you want them to be slightly larger than your cutout. You don't want it to be too much larger because you have to keep in mind the frame that we're creating. So the frame, like I said at the beginning, is when you take those 2 pieces, like I took my 4th here, and I took my 2nd pennant shape, so that way I could cut them at the same time, so I get the frame, and then I get that insert piece that'll come out, the middle piece here, and we don't need this middle piece for anything, but you don't want the piece to be so big that it goes beyond what your frame is. So it's just slightly bigger than your smallest opening. And so here's where I was talking about with using this pennant. You have this portion here. I bring it a little bit closer and hopefully kind of see, it's kind of hard, it's clear. But this portion here where this goes up, this will show through here if you don't cut a little triangle out of it. So I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to set this down, and then I'm just going to snip up in the center about where that, oops, portion is, so that I kind of know where I'm working from. And then I'm going to go do a little cut from the left to that point and a little cut from the right. And then I'm just going to test it. So I just do it slowly to check and see how that looks. So I could do more than what I've done because, again, I know it's probably hard to see because of that clear, but I've got more space that I could cut from. So I'm going to go ahead and do that again because I don't want that showing through when I put my frame on. I don't want to take away from the beautifulness of the creation after we've worked so hard on it. So I'm just going to go ahead and trim that away, and that should be better. Okay, so then you're going to go ahead and you're going to take tear and tape because it's nice and strong, and you're going to go ahead. You don't need to do the whole shape because we're not putting anything like the shaker elements in there. We're just gluing down that first layer of the window sheet. So I'm just going to put a little piece, and you want as close to the edge as you can get, because what you're going to notice is that the little gap, the little extra that you have of your window sheet is thinner than the thickness of the tear and tape. So I'm actually going to be rolling in some of my tear and tape so that there's not extra sticky beyond my window sheet. And depending on your shape, you probably will have the same thing as well, just because you don't, like I was saying, don't want a big clearance going around. Okay, so I'm almost done here. And hopefully if you're creating along with me, that's giving you some time to get some things together. Okay, so I'm going to actually rub these with my bone folder just to help get that release paper to come off easily. And then I'm gonna go ahead and take all these backings off all at once so I can put down my first window sheet. Okay, oops, I missed one right here. Okay, So we're gonna go ahead and actually, before we do that, I was talking about, I'm gonna kind of roll. That's kind of why I like, the tear tape is really strong, but it's also pretty malleable. Like you can go ahead and like roll in the edges if it's a little too wider than what you need it to be. Oops. I've got my little triangle window sheet piece here that I cut off, sticking to my tear tape. Okay, so I'm just kind of rolling it, using my finger to roll it in so it's a little bit less thick, less wide, I should say. Okay, hopefully I'm not shaking the camera too bad by doing this. Okay, all right, now I'm gonna go ahead and put this down and it should be better. Okay, there we go. And if any extras there, just kind of rub it into that window sheet so that way it doesn't affect anything else. Okay, so now you've got one window sheet on there. So now is when you're gonna go ahead and you're going to take your adhesive strips, your foam adhesive strips, I should say, because you want it to be thick with your foam. And you're just gonna go ahead, and this is the part where you do need it to go all the way around the entire piece because you don't want any of your shaker elements to be able to fly out, because then it kind of defeats the purpose of having a really cool shaker element if they're all falling out. Okay, so I'm just following basically along where I've put all of that tear and tape, because that will be a good guide for placing my next piece of the window sheet as well as the decorative frame on it. So you just want to keep squishing each of the strips up against the next one when you snip it off, so that way you know there's no gap. Okay. Almost down here. Whoops, that didn't get close enough. Oh, the backing's coming off. There we go. Okay. All right. Okay, so before you remove that backing, which unfortunately this one strip, the backing wanted to come off on me already, you're gonna go ahead and put your shaker element inside there so that way it is ready to go ahead and have that second window sheet put on it. But before we do that, I'm going to actually cut my thing again. I should have done that when I was doing the first one. You want to go ahead and cut that little triangle again. So I'm going to go ahead and get that center point to help guide me and cut away a triangle piece. Hopefully that'll work out well. Okay, looks good. Okay, so the shaker element that I chose to use are no longer available, unfortunately, but maybe you have it in your stash. They're the loose shaker elements that they're kind of iridescent and clear. I like them because they allow you to still see what is stamped on the inside. Like if you use something darker, you might want to use less of them because you don't want it to kind of overwhelm the peekaboo element on the inside of the card. So that's why I chose to use this. I also liked, because they're iridescent, that it helps pick up whatever colors you're working with. And so it really helps get those in colors showing. So I'm just putting some pinches in there in the center. And just put as much or as little as you want. And hopefully they don't pop out or anything. Okay, so now that you've done that, then you're gonna go ahead and remove those backing strips so that you can put the adhesive sheet, or I'm sorry, the window sheet down on top, sealing it all closed. Okay, and they do get a little staticky, so once you start putting it down, you'll notice that they'll start to kind of cling to it. Okay. All right, so the next, I'm gonna go ahead, and like I said, I'm gonna use that frame that we created, and I'm gonna go ahead and use tear and tape, and I'm gonna glue that down so then it just covers up all of the mechanics there of all that foam tape and everything that we've got going on. And so it works really nice. Again, you don't have to do every single inch of your frame, just enough so that it will stick to the top of that shaker element. Okay. Actually, maybe I should put one here on the bottom too. Okay. All right. Taking the backings off. Again, it was kind of sad to not use this pretty floral paper of this Artisan Sketched Gardens. But the polka dots are very nice too. I always love polka dots, so. All right, so then you're gonna go ahead and place that on there so it covers up all of that foam tape. And now you've got a nice frame around it. Oops, I kind of off-centered mine. Hopefully, will it let me pick it back up? No, that's okay. So what I will do, I don't know if that'll get really bunched up. I might put a balloon right here to cover up that little bunched up piece there. So there's always a fix, right? We always find some way to cover up our little boo-boos. So now we've got that, and so now we're gonna work on our balloons. So I went ahead and I stamped and cut out from the Balloon Festoon all of the new in colors. So you've got your Peaceful Pine. If you haven't seen these yet, you got your Peaceful Pine, you've got your Golden Glow, got your Crisp Cantaloupe, your Barely Blush, which is really pale, and then the one that we've all had a sneak peek of, the Hydrangea Hue. So I stamped all of them so that I could use all of them on my card. And I should also show you, if you haven't seen the cool magnetic feature, I'm sure you've seen lots of videos of these because they're so awesome. So then what I did is I used linen thread and a glue dot. So I put a glue dot on the back of each of the balloons and attached a string of the linen thread. So I used 3 balloons on the front, and I didn't want any of the colors to go to waste, and so I used 2 on the back. And I didn't attach any strings because I didn't want it to be bulky on the inside. It's kind of like they're floating up. And they also serve the purpose of the balloon that kind of overshadows here, and so you don't have to see the back side of it. You kind of have this balloon here to go ahead and cover that up. So you can choose whatever colors you want on the front. I'd recommend that, because if you're keeping it like how I'm doing it here and you're using the same colors and the same papers, that you do go ahead and include the pine one here, just because we use the pine velveteen, and so then it ties it in nicely. But so I'm probably going to go ahead and I'll change it up a little bit here. I definitely need to go ahead and put a balloon over that boo-boo. So I'm going to go ahead and add a glue dot to the back of my balloon here. And then I'll get a piece of the linen thread. Stick it on there. And then I'm gonna go ahead and let's see. Do I want to have that one be in the front and that back? So I'm gonna go ahead and also do this one. Kind of figuring out placement here of how I want to do it. And you could also cut the balloons in half and have half of the balloon showing on one side and half on the other side. So that way you get a little bit more fullness in there. I was trying to kind of keep it with odd numbers because it's always kind of, it's very visually pleasing to have odd numbers. So that's why I did the 3 colors of the balloons on the front. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and stick this one up here at the top. Make sure my string is kind of coming from the center there. And I'm not gonna tack down my linen thread, I'm just gonna kind of let it hang there. And then I'm going to take a dimensional on the left-hand side of my balloon, because it will be overlapping that frame. And then some regular adhesive on the right, so it balances out the height that's happening. And I'll go like that. You don't want to cover up any of the words that you have on the peekaboo element, so I was making sure I was not covering up that happy. So I've got 2 of my balloons there, and let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and add my linen thread to this one. And then I will probably keep this, maybe go a little higher. So I'm gonna, again, put a dimensional, but this time the dimensional is gonna be on the right-hand side with the regular adhesive on the left so it balances out that height again with the shaker element. Just like that. And again, you don't want to be hiding any of that word, or if you put something else in there other than a word. So now let's go to the inside. So like I said, I used my remaining 2 balloons. Like you can see here that I've got a portion of that balloon here, and then I've got a portion that's off here on the side. So I'm going to use these balloons to go ahead and hide that. So I need to go ahead and put the adhesive on the right hand side here. And you can kind of determine how you want the balloon to be, like depending on if you want it curved more to the left, more to the right, straight up and down. You can choose to do that, but kind of try to keep it in line with the angle of how the one on the front is, so that way it's truly hiding it from both the front and the back. You're not having that show through on either side. Okay. All right, so I've got those 2 there. And so then my final bit was I wanted to go ahead and bring the inside, or the outside rather, to the inside here. So I used another one of the patterns from the Artisan Sketched Garden. So this measures 4 1/4 by 1/2 inch. And I'm gonna have this glued flush to the base here. And then keeping that same pattern of how I did the front, where it was a 1/2 inch and then it was a 1/4 inch. This is a 1/4 inch then of the basic black and 4 1/4 long. So I'm gonna go ahead and glue both these down. And so that way it just kind of ties it all together, and you get to see 3 of the fun patterns in this collection. So it's flush to the bottom. And then this one goes right on top, just like that. And then there you have it, a fun peekaboo shaker card. So I would love to see what you guys do with yours. I did want to point out, just in case like you like this idea and you want to see more examples of this kind of peekaboo shaker. So fellow team member and my sister-in-law Barb and I do each month, we have a crafty copycat creations group, and each month we choose a project inspiration and we do a weekly video on it, so that people are using what's in their stash and they're learning something new. And they're kind of learning that you can, you know, make it your own from just getting a start from somebody else. And so like we take turns making videos on it. So this concept is actually the one we're going to do next month in May. We're going to be doing this peekaboo shaker card. This month we're currently doing a fun fold. So you're welcome to join us. We have a public Facebook group called Crafty Copycat Creations. That way you guys can play along too. It's just kind of a fun way to get some inspiration and create something, and the fact that the 2 of us do it and we alternate weeks, you're getting different tips, you're getting different styles, so it's a lot of fun just from that perspective, I think. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Like I said, be sure to share it because we'd love to see it, and if you have any questions, be sure to leave those as well. And that is it for you for this project. So until next time, stay crafty.